So in the previous video we built up the footer area for our website. In this video we're going to start building the app page. So let's go to RapidWeaver and add a new page. It's going to be stacks obviously. And what we're going to do is call this Scriver. And straight away in the page inspector I'm going to update the folder name to be Scriver. And what we need to do is start adding, actually if I show the RapidWeaver's left hand sidebar, what we're going to need to do is create a couple of partials before we go any further. So as I mentioned previously, the Foundry stack needs to be added to every page on your website. Now obviously if we switch over to the Scriver page here, what we don't want to do is go and add another copy of the Foundry stack here, because what that will do is it will have all of the default settings. So for example here we set the base font to be Helvetica on the home page. What we want to happen is have a partial where this Foundry base stack is set and we add that to all of the pages. Otherwise what we'd have to do is go to every page and update the settings for this Foundry stack every time we made a change on any of the pages. So that's really kind of defeating the object of using the base stack here. So what we're going to do is go to the home page first, and then what we're going to do is create a partial for both the Foundry and the navigation bar. So what I'm going to do is drag and drop in, or actually what I'm going to do first is select the Foundry stack and then just click the partial button here. That's going to create a partial for us. I'm going to call this global menu, for example, and then what I'm going to do is go back. I'm going to copy the navbar and then I'm going to delete it from the banner area. I'm going to go into the global menu partial and then paste that menu into there, like so. So what we have here is a partial that we're going to use on every page of our site called global menu. That contains the Foundry stack and the navigation bar. So obviously the Foundry stack here, as I said, that needs to be on every page. So a global menu partial is a good place to do that. So once you have that partial, what we can do is ensure that the global menu is a child of the banner area, because if you remember in the first video we set the navigation to be a child or have a parent banner item. So that needs to be inside of the banner area here. Otherwise the hero banner would be placed on top of the navigation bar and you wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, then we can go to the Scriver page and start building the banner area for this page. So to do that, what we will do is open the stacks library, hide RapidWeaver's left sidebar, search for the banner stack and drag and drop that in. Here you'll see you get a warning, the Foundry control center stack is missing. So you'll be pretty hard pressed to not add that global menu partial in, because you'll get this big red warning saying it can't find the base stack or the control center stack. So what we want to do before we do anything else is go to the partials area and drag and drop that global menu partial into here. You'll see that warning will disappear because inside of that partial we have the Foundry stack. Okay, then what we want to do is go to the banner settings, change that to be an image again, and then we're going to go and actually this time browse on our desktop. I have an assets folder now, and in here we have a header background image that I'm going to use. And again I'm going to set the color overlay to be 65%. And we're going to set that to be a hero banner, and I'm going to remove the scroll down button again. Okay, next go to your Foundry folder, search for the image stack and drag and drop that in below the menu. And once again I'm going to browse for our logo or our icon, and I'm going to set the image sizing to be max width of 256, and then what we want is a header, so drag and drop that in. And I'm also going to get a paragraph quickly, so we can scroll down and just drag and drop that one in there. And we also want a button, so we will drag and drop in the button there, like so. Okay, again what we need to do is set the alignment to be center on all of these. And whilst I'm on the button I will set that to be primary, And then on the header, I'm going to change the styling to be color picker again, and set that to be white. And then again on the paragraph, we will change the style to be color pickers, and we'll set the text color to white. Okay, and then on the desktop, I have that assets folder. I have a copy file in here with some example copy that we're going to be using throughout this series. And for the header here, we're using Scriver for iPad Pro. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that in there. And for the paragraph, we are using this paragraph here, or this sentence. So we copy and paste that one in as well. What we want to do is make this paragraph a lead paragraph again, like so. And then on our actual live site, if we go to Safari, you'll see here on the Scriver page, we have a nice little paragraph of text with a few links and a little bit of information about what you need to be able to use our application. So let's go and add that now. So I need to switch back to the Scriver page here, and I can just copy and paste over the paragraph text, or the paragraph stack, and I don't want that to be a lead stack anymore. And then what I'm going to do is add a buy now link, and then a release notes link, and a reviews link. And then below that, we are going to say Scriver requires an iPad Pro and iOS 10 or newer. Okay, and then what we're going to do is link off these bits of text to somewhere. So I'll just set a link. I'm going to just set this to the home page. Obviously you'd set this to your store or wherever you want these pieces of text to go to. I don't have these pages, and we're not going to build up all of these pages in this course, so I'm just going to set these to go to the home page for now, like so. And then what I want to do is change the text color. I'm going to use a bit of a transparent white, so something a little bit more, perhaps around 50% would be good, something like that. And then let's go and preview that in Safari. So we go to the Scriver page, and yeah, there we see that's looking pretty good. We need to add a little bit of margin. And also I've just realized we're not actually using a button here. What we're doing is using a drop down. So if you click on here, you'll see we can buy this directly or on the Mac App Store. Now obviously you can't actually buy an iPad Pro on the Mac App Store. This is just an example. I probably should have said iOS Store, or just the App Store in fact. So let's go and do that now. So we will delete this button. And what we need to do is use the drop down stack, or the button group stack first in fact. So search for button group, and what I'm going to do is add that there. We only want one button, so I'm going to delete that. And what we actually need to do is add a drop down button here, so I can delete that first button as well. And there you'll see that you have the main button, and then you have the drop down menu. So by default there's just one link. We want two links, so I can add a drop down link like so. And then to start with, what we'll do is set the style to be primary, and I will set this to say buy now. And then we will change the links to be directly. Now again, obviously you can't buy an iPad app directly. This is just some example content to show you how you can create a drop down menu. And on this one we'll just say on the App Store. And again, I'm not going to set the links. You'd obviously do that in here or to another page, wherever you want these links to go to. You set the link like that. Finally, what we want to do is set the button group settings to be center aligned, like so. And then what I'm going to do is just add some margin to the bottom of that. So I'm going to say 20 pixels, and then we'll go back and preview that. And we'll see I'll drop down here. I've accidentally placed that above the paragraph text. I'm sure you saw me do that, but let's fix that. And then go back and preview. And there you'll see we now have that nice drop down button, or that drop down menu here. So you can set the text in here to be anything you want. I had previously something like this. And on the App Store we were charging more, so $129, like so. And there we go. Now you've got a nice buy button with a drop down menu. If you're selling things directly or via a reseller, this is one way of doing that. Okay, so that's our header looking pretty good. What I want to do is remove the base margin from the banner area, because by default the banner always puts a little bit of spacing below that, but we don't want that on our page. Okay, next up, if we look at the live website again, you'll see we have a header and then a nice big image gallery here that we can scroll through. So let's add that. So the first thing we want is a container, because as I mentioned in the previous video, the container is essentially a box that you will place all of your content inside of. And the reason we want to do that is because we can control the max width, and it will also add some padding around that content so it doesn't butt up against, for example, the banner area here. So what we're using is 960 pixels width for our website. And then inside of there, what we want to add is a header. So I'll search for that, drag and drop that in. And then what we'll do is set the alignment to be center, and the header text here was designed exclusively for iPad Pro. So there's our header, and then below that what we want to add is a slider gallery. So search for slider, and we can drag and drop that in below the header. And here you'll see you get 3 images by default, and there are some settings. We'll leave them as they are for now. What we want to do is concentrate on adding our images. Now you can select the slide and you'll see you get a media type. So you can add a Vimeo, a YouTube, or set it as a hero. Now hero works in the same way as the banner hero, where it will take up the full page width. All we're doing is using the image setting for this one. Obviously if you have a video you can use these settings here. So for now all we're going to do is browse for an image. I've got some screenshots here and I will select that. Now you can set the thumbnail as well if you want. If you have an alternative version or you've resized it for the thumbnails, or you even want thumbnails, then you can set that here. We're not going to be using thumbnails, so I'll leave that blank. And what I'll do is quickly set up the remaining 5 screenshots. So let's do that now. 2, and then the third one. And then what we'll do is add 3 more. So a slide image. As you can see, you can add a content, and that would allow you to add some stacks in here. We're not going to do that in this video, we're just using the images like so. But this slider stack is very flexible. If you want different content or you want to create your own slides, you can do that inside of here. As I say, we're just concentrating on an image slider. So we'll set 4 and number 5, and finally the 6th image. So we'll browse for that like so. And then on the slider settings, what we're doing here, the pagination, we'll just have dots, that's fine, and we'll leave the colors as they are, and we want them below. And you can adjust these settings as you wish. We'll leave everything as the default. Let's go to Safari and preview that. So we go to our local site, refresh, scroll down, and here you'll see we automatically get that slider, and we can go through our images like so. And you'll see you get the dot navigation at the bottom. Okay, what we need to do is add a little bit of padding or margin to a few of these items. So I know I removed the margin from the banner earlier. What I'm going to do is uncheck that remove base option, remove base margin, because we do actually want that. That was working quite nicely. And then next what I want to do is add a little bit of margin to the bottom of the header. So I'm going to set this to be 20 pixels. Go back and preview that. And there we're looking a little bit nicer, a bit more space. We can adjust that later on, but right now it was as simple as that to add a very nice slider gallery to our page. So the next piece of content we'll want to add is the feature list. And to do that we'll want to add some columns below the slider. And here again we want a 3-column layout, so we're going to update the settings to be 3. And then we're going to add a 2-column layout with inside of that, because if we go back to Safari, you'll see here we have the icon on the left with a header and some paragraph on the right. So to do this we can just use a 2-column layout inside of here. So once again, drag and drop the column stack into here. I'm going to hide the stacks library. And then on the left hand side, what we want to do is add an image. So actually let me show the stacks library again and search for an image. And drag and drop that in. And then on the right hand side, we want a header and some paragraph text. So it's a little bit hard to see here, so as I said, I'm going to hide the stacks library now. We get a bit of a better view. So the image that we want here is going to be some of the icons. So on the desktop I have my assets folder, and inside of there I've got my icons with 9 different icons here. We actually use these on the Real Mac site. These are just examples for you. So let's just drag in the first one, which is the browser. And whoops, I'll need to have the image selected. So we'll select that there, and then we'll drag that into there. Or actually let's browse for those, it might be easier. So let's go to the icons folder and just add that one in. And in here for the header, the text we're going to have is just feature header. And then we're going to have a bit of a smaller paragraph of text, perhaps just a couple of lines. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is copy that over to each one of these columns. Okay, and then what I'm actually going to need to do also is adjust the tag for this, and the size that we're going to have here is an H5. So I'll update that on these 3. Like so. So let's go and preview that in Safari. Go back to our local browser, our local host, and there we'll see we've got our 3-column layout. However, we need to ensure that the content is contained correctly inside of the 960 pixel width. So let's go back to here, and what we need to do is select the container. And the issue is not the container width, it's actually that the columns are outside of the container, so those need to be dropped inside of there. And then you'll see that those will snap into the content width correctly. So all we need to do here is adjust the columns inside of here. So the 2-column layout, the left hand side is a little bit smaller than the right hand side. So we need to go back to RapidWeaver and select the inner column stack. And then what we want to do is customize these columns, so ensure that this checkbox is enabled. And then what we're going to do is set on the mobile columns, we're going to set the first width to be 3 and the second column to be 9. So that will mean that the right hand column here, or the second column, will get 9 column widths, and the first or the left hand column here will be 3. So again, we're adding everything up to 12. And then what we'll want to do is we can either customize this on the tablet as well, or we can disable that and the tablet will get the mobile custom widths that we set here. And again, the same is true for the desktop. We can either customize how we want them to be on the desktop as well, or we can enforce it to have the mobile widths that we've set here by disabling the use desktop breakpoint. So if you don't use either the tablet or the desktop breakpoints, those will have the mobile column widths applied. So in all cases here, what we're doing is saying the left hand column, or the first column, should be 3 and the second column should be 9. So let's go back to Safari and preview that. And here you'll see that this column that we have customized, the icon is now a bit smaller and more left aligned, and the text gets more space here. Okay, next we need to, or I want to, adjust the size of the icon. So I want to say the maximum width, so the image sizing, max width. What we're setting here is 32 pixels. So then we go back to Safari and preview that. And you'll see that that icon is a little bit more crisp. And then what I want to do is set the alignment to center, which it is, good. And that is all we need to do for the customizing the column. So what I'll actually do is delete these 2 that we copied earlier and just copy over this customized column stack here. And then when we go back to Safari, we should be looking a bit neater. And yeah, now we've got our icon, looks a little bit better. So what I'm going to do, rather than make you watch me add all of these ones, is just pause the video now and add these remaining 6 feature headers and icons, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so all I've done here is copy those columns again, so we have 9 features and the icons next to them. And I have just updated each one of the icons, so if we preview that in Safari, and we scroll down, you'll now see that we have 9 different features with the different icons. Okay, so literally all I did was copy in a column in below here. So it's still within inside the same parent column stack. You just need to copy the columns in below so that you have 3 rows essentially. Okay, now what we need to do is add a little bit of margin to the slider. So I will add 40 pixels to the bottom of there. And there you'll see we're starting to build the page up nicely. We've got our title here, a nice image gallery, and we've got our feature set below. Okay, if we go to the live site and have a look what we need to add next, you'll see this full page banner here with a nice call to action button and a bit of text. So let's have a look at how we can build that. So what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do now to save a bit of space, is select the container here and click the hide button. So essentially all that does is collapse down this stack and doesn't show you what's actually inside of there. And I'm going to do that for the banner as well, just so we can see what I'm actually editing. So you can toggle that on and off just to save a little bit of space whilst you're editing. Okay, what we need to add is another container. So we'll come down here to the Foundry stacks, drop that into the page. And what we want to do is then inside of there add a banner. So we'll drag and drop the banner into there. And once again, this banner type is going to be an image, and we will browse for that image. And I think it's this one here. Yeah, we will select that. We're not doing a hero banner this time, so we'll leave that as the defaults. However, we do want a color overlay, and I think we'll go around 50%, or maybe a little bit darker, 65 again, something like that. You can have a play around with the overlay opacity. Then inside of there what we want is a column stack, so we'll drag and drop that in, and all we actually want on this one is a 1 column, like so. Okay, and then inside of there we want a header, so we'll drag and drop that in, and then a paragraph of text, and finally a button. Drop that in there. Okay, now what you might have noticed here is that some of the content is being cut off at the bottom of this banner. So what we need to do is adjust the banner height here. So what we're going to do is minus or disable the banner height. So by default there is a fixed banner height here, and you can see you can adjust that on the different mobile devices or different devices. However, what we want it to be is flexible, so it will adjust to the content within inside of there automatically. Okay, so we'll drag the button to the bottom of the banner area, and then what we need to do is set the header to be centered, and we'll have an H2, will be fine I think. But what we want to do is change the color, so we'll select color picker, and then we'll make that white. And again we'll do that with the paragraph text. We'll align it center, set the color picker to be white, like so, and we'll probably want that to be a lead paragraph as well, just to draw a little bit of attention to it. And what I'm going to do is make that slightly smaller, perhaps just a couple of lines there. So finally the button, again we want to align that center, we want the size, perhaps we want a large button now, and the one we want is maybe an info button, or let's go with a warning, so we get that yellowy gold color. We are going to look at customizing the colors a bit later on. So the colors that we've got currently aren't matching the live site, but as I say, we'll look at customizing that later. Okay, let's just update the button text. Let's say purchase something today, like so. And in the header, let's just put something like an exciting thing is here. And we'll leave the paragraph text like that. Okay, what we do need to do though, if I just show you this in preview quickly, you're going to notice that it's not full width and we need some padding, and the layout isn't quite the same as we had on the live site here. So what we want to do is look at how we can make this a full width banner area. So let's go back to RapidWeaver, and what we need to do is select the parent container here, and instead of having a fixed width we want that to be fluid, and we want to remove the left and right padding. Okay, next on the banner we need to set the inner fixed width to be 960 to match the rest of our content, like so. And what I want to do is add some padding to the parent container. Or actually, sorry, what I want to do is add some padding to the columns inner stack here. So what that will do is pad the content from the top and the bottom of the actual banner image. And what we're going to use is 100 pixels on both the top and bottom. Okay, so if we go to Safari again and preview that, you'll now see that we're looking a little bit more similar. We've got that full page banner area with a overlay. However, on the live site, I think I'm using a slightly blue tint, so let's have a look at doing that. So we'll go back to RapidWeaver. We'll select the banner and then the overlay color, and I'm just going to put in a hex of 343B4F. And we'll set the overlay to 85%, like so. And then what I want to do is add a little bit of padding to the top of that button, or margin, whichever. We'll set that to 40, and then we'll go back and preview again. And there we can see we're looking a little bit nicer. So that's how you create a full page banner with a nice overlay with some content that is contained inside of the site width, which we're using as 960 pixels. Okay, so I think that just about does it for the banner area here. If we actually just go back to Safari and preview our site, I think we're going to be just about done for this video. Let's have a look. Our header is looking pretty good. We've got that nice drop down there with our links, and our slider gallery is working nicely. Just double check everything is looking good. Our feature list is there with our icons, and we've got that nice full width banner with a call to action button in the middle there. So as I say, that'll do it for this lesson. In the next lesson we'll continue building this page, and we'll look at how we can add this section of content that animates in as you scroll down the page. And of course we'll continue building the rest of the content on this application page. So once you're ready, I'll see you in the next video.